Welcome everyone. I'd like to call tonight's regular meeting of council to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of April 9th, 2018 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 3A, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of March 26, 2018 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Renhowa, seconded by Councillor Moreau. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 3B, recommendation that the minutes of the public hearing of March 26, 2018 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Moreau. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 3C, recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 26, 2018 be received. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Renhowa. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And item 3D, recommendation that the minutes of the regular meeting of March 26, 2018 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Renhowa, seconded by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, first up we have a report from our community planner regarding an application for development variance permit at 228 8th Avenue East. Welcome back.
This development variance permit request at 228 8th Avenue East is for the purpose of constructing a two-story addition. The existing residence is currently sited in non-conformance to setback standards. The purpose of the addition is to increase storage and living space to the existing residence. The full application is included in the report. The application is to vary section 5.2.4 of the Prince Rupert zoning bylaw to decrease the minimum allowable rear yard setback from 3 to 1.75 meters. The existing residence is non-conforming to rear yard setback standards because of the siting of the residence, which is towards 8th Avenue East, as is shown here. Moreover, the east property boundary was originally curved but is now squared since approximately the 1990s. In short, what was once considered the side yard is now considered the rear yard. The 72 square meter two-story addition is proposed on the east side of the residence of this mixed single and two-story residential neighborhood, as is indicated here. The location of this corner lot poses little visual or sunlight obstruction to most of the surrounding residences, and that would be to the west, north, and east. However, some visual obstruction will be introduced to the neighbor to the south in this direction. Therefore, it is recommended to proceed with public notification. In conclusion, the applicant requests approval to proceed to public notification. Do you have any questions?
Questions from council?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Renhowa. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have a report from our communications manager, as well as our fire chief, and as well as our RT manager. Some very interesting news.
So as you can see in your agenda packages, the RTC that was provided, and also through our presentation today, we'll be launching the emergency notification system for our municipality, as well as a municipal app program. So, the emergency notification system will alert residents in the case of a local emergency, the steps to take. Emergency alerts will be sent out via the app, local landlines, and text to mobile devices to all subscribers to the emergency service. It's going to provide specific local information, and notifications can be targeted to your location based on residents. So when residents go to sign up for this subscription service, they'll see sections that they can subscribe to depending on where you live. If you want to get a notification no matter what, you can subscribe to all the sections and then you'll be notified no matter where the emergency. And this will complement the existing provincial emergency management BC alert system that was recently launched. by informing on local conditions. So if you are signed up for the MBC program, we still encourage you to sign up for ours because it will provide you specific information about local conditions and where you want to go in case of an emergency.
So I have a question. Can I ask it now before I forget?
Sure.
Sure. Your mic, please.
So when you talk
Sorry about that. So when you're talking about specific local information, so notifications can be targeted to your location based on residence, what would the choices be?
So we've arranged it by section, and there's a map that accompanies the subscription form that you'll fill out that tells you which section you're in. So you don't have to necessarily know which section you're in, but because Prince Rupert is already divided into sections, it was just an easy form for us to use in order to locate people.
And what kind of different notifications? So it says specific notifications can be targeted to your location. So what would, like obviously tsunami would be one. What other kind of notifications would be a targeted one? That's what I'm asking. Do you understand my question?
Yeah. So primarily the way that we arranged it was so that, you know, if people are in the low-lying waterfront areas, they could be notified without having to notify the entire community about a tsunami hazard, because that was one of the primary emergencies that we were concerned about alerting residents to.
So you could like target Water Street and say, notice specifically for that section only, and make sure that specific notices are going to certain areas depending on the location in the community.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, or for instance, if there was a leak of some kind of chemical at the recreation complex or something, we could evacuate the recreation complex that way as well. And if you're getting a mobile alert, it can, and you have location services turned on and allow the app to see your location, you'll get a location-specific notification. Okay. So if you're in the rec complex and it knows you're in the rec complex, you can be told to get out of the rec complex. Does that make sense?
Yes. Hypothetical situation.
Hypothetical, of course. All right. The city did try to get phone numbers from City West so that we could automatically have landlines subscribe to this service. However, due to privacy laws, we weren't allowed to access those phone numbers to automatically subscribe people. So we are going to be doing a big push to have residents subscribe. I can talk a little bit more about the way that we're going to do that. So there actually are two programs, as was mentioned in the first slide. So there's the Connect Rocket system, as well as an in-house developed mobile application. So the Connect Rocket system, you sign up and it will give you an alert to your landline, so people with landlines can also be notified. That's the primary system that we want people to use to be alerted by, and in the event of emergency, it's pushed out to all landline subscribers, as well as text messages, and if you use your email as well. The application is kind of a nice-to-have kind of backup system that provides more than just emergency alerting notification. It also provides news alerts, access to all the city's kind of brochures, certain bylaws that people might find interesting, access to our YouTube channel. There's different kinds of points of interest in the community. There's a whole bunch of kind of fun features in the application, so if people are mobile users, I encourage you to download it. It's pretty great. It was developed in-house by our IT department, and they did a great job. In addition, you can also call 311 in the event of an emergency. Check your local radio, the city's social media pages, as well as our website for updates. So we also just wanted to provide a bit of an overview of how to sign up for the Connect Rocket system. So if any of you receive inquiries from the public or for people who are watching at home, they understand how to do this. It's pretty simple. So an easy way to do it is if you're a member of the public who uses the computer frequently and are comfortable with the internet, you can go to princerupert.ca/emergency. Below there's a little logo that you'll see that's on the right of the screen there. Click residents and you can fill in the online form to register. Like I mentioned, it's got a little map there that shows you which section to pick. And it's basically just asking you for your name and your location information, your contact information. We're also going to make paper forms available at the recreation complex, senior center, library, city hall, and other partner locations for residents to fill out, and then city staff will go and collect them and fill in the information. You should get a notification immediately on your phone once you've been registered. So you'll get a little, I've signed up for it, and I got a little text message telling me that I'm subscribed now to that service. We're also considering placing them at the hospital, credit union, transition society. We just have to actually coordinate with those partners in order to get that going. So this is exactly what the sign-in form looks like online. The paper form looks a little bit different, but collects all the same information. You can see full name, email address, phone number. You can also add another number at the same time, so you can register more than one person at once if you'd like to register someone in your family. Makes it a little bit simpler for you. And then you can sign up with a password and change the different, if you move, for instance, you can change the section you choose or things like that. And so this is the map that we mentioned. It helps you clearly identify where it is that you live, and you can zoom in on it as well to kind of get a better picture of those street names, because I know they're a little blurry right now. So an additional feature is that visitors coming to town can sign up for notifications along with the date that they're leaving the community, to only get an alert up until the point where they leave and they no longer want to hear from the city of Prince Rupert and our emergency alert system. So we're also going to be trying to share this with some of the hotels, motels, the marina, the Port Ed Harbor Authority, so that they can let people know who are coming in through town, some of the transient marine traffic, that they can sign up for this service as well. There you go. So that's pretty much it. You're all signed up. If you've gone through this process, you should receive an immediate notification, like I mentioned, on your mobile phone or landline that the service has been initiated. And paper registration, so if you've signed up and you've written all your information down at one of the locations we mentioned, like City Hall or the library, it might be subject to a couple of days or a week until you're actually registered, because we've got to go collect that, and then IT has to input the data, but it should be done relatively quickly.
So, Ms. Stewart, is this for...
Use your mic, please. Sorry.
I don't know what it is with me and the mic today. Is this for both the application, the app, and that Connect Rocket or whatever it's called?
No, this is just for Connect Rocket. So
okay.
This is the primary alerting software. Yeah. The next step, actually, we'll show you how to download. I'm also not on top of the microphone today. No, this is actually just for the Connect Rocket system. So this is just for the kind of primary alerting system, and then we'll go into how to download the app. That's the next step. All right, so here's a little how-to guide for the app. So this is just for people with mobile phones or iPads, things like that, mobile devices. Again, it's fairly simple. You just go into, if you've got an iTunes store or the Google Play Store, you can go in, type Prince Rupert into the search bar of your mobile phone or device app store, and you can download the city's municipal app that way. So there's a little logo that's a kind of a bit of a cutout of our crest. That's the icon, and then that lets you know that that's our app. Or you can also go to princerupert.ca/emergency and click one of the buttons that's there on the screen, depending on whether you have an Apple or Android product. So that'll take you immediately to the store where you can just download it. It's a free application. Also, the service is free, just so people know. Like I mentioned with the app, there's quite a few extra features besides just emergency notifications in the mobile application. Like I said, IT did a really good job with this. They've got news updates, so any news updates that are posted to the city's website will also be sent out this way. If you'd like to subscribe to those notifications, you can find out, when traffic might be disrupted in your neighborhood, or if the recreation services are disrupted, or things like that. If there's no great city event going on. City brochures are also available there, the garbage schedule, things about, applying for a permit, notice of rec center and aquatic notifications, access to our YouTube channel, department contact information, local points of interest, events, and potentially more to come. So we're going to look at other things that we could potentially use this app for. Something I should mention is that you will be automatically subscribe to all notifications when you get the app. So there is a notification section there, if you can see it on the screen, and you can go up to the little cog in the corner and unsubscribe if you don't want to receive all of the notifications. However, if you have the app, you're automatically going to get a notification about emergencies. So it's a little redundancy there. So the costs, part of the consideration of why we chose these particular services and programs is due to the relatively low cost. So Connect Rocket has a service fee of $3,000 a year plus the cost of each notification, which is 4 cents for voice, 2 cents per text, and email is free. So these costs are also recoverable currently through the province, so that's great for us. App content, like we mentioned, was developed internally by the IT department. The platform costs $950 a year, which includes the hosting, platform costs, and submission to the app stores. Messaging then is free.
So those are the costs to the city of Prince Rupert, not to the resident.
Oh yeah, absolutely. These are costs to the city. These are costs to the city. It's free, completely for residents. Right, and that's all that I have to say about that. If anybody has any questions.
I just have to say, this is a great job. I mean, just that we have skilled IT staff internally to develop an app. I know how hard it is actually to make an app and to have something so robust. I mean, this is absolutely great. You guys completely responded to what I think the community needs. No complaints here. I think this is awesome. Councillor Cunningham, then Councillor Randhawa.
Great job. I like it. Possibly somebody you can connect with is Tourism Prince Rupert, because when tourists are going to come to town, and if this is on their site too, it'll give them an insight. Plus, like all the other little things that are in there would also help anyone coming here, and possibly a pamphlet at the airport for people getting off the plane, and that, you know, ferries and that might be, I think you already mentioned them, and even down at the Tourist Bureau might be another place, Veronica, just to have the information there for people. But I think it answers a lot of questions that people had. It's, you know, if it happens again, maybe people will be connected.
Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your presentation. I think that's great news for our community. I have few questions. Like, if somebody don't have like cell phone or landline, is there any other way to alert people, like sirens or anything? And second question, when they can start registering for this program? And third one, is there any program to educate our community, like in case of any emergency, where they should go? And right, yeah, so these are. And also on your web, right, another one is like in case like our residents see any problems like leakage or potholes, something like that, can they report on that website too, or not yet? In future we can do it.
So I'm just going to try to go through the questions. So the first, one of the things was, so the app is now available. People can sign up now. If you're at home watching and you go to princerupert.ca/emergency, you can immediately sign up. So if people don't have a phone or a landline or a mobile phone, one of the things in terms of evacuation areas that we can do is we can have our emergency vehicles go down and run their vehicle sirens and door knock in the event that people do need to evacuate, if there's time to do so. We do encourage people, though, that, you know, if you feel an earthquake, immediately go to high ground. That's just kind of good practice. So that's something to bear in mind for people. In terms of, I'm just trying to think of, in terms of alerting where to go, we've developed a brochure that the city is actually planning on sending out to residences, and it will also be available on the app and on the city's website, and we're going to be posting it online as well in the near future, probably in the next month or two. So that will, in the inside of the brochure, it has a little map that shows the evacuation areas, and people will notice that the majority of Prince Rupert is considered a kind of high ground. The main areas for evacuation, they're noted in the map, are Beach Place and Water, and around Bill Murray Drive, kind of that area that's really close to the waterfront. I think that was there any other questions? Sorry.
Yeah, and one more, like, is there in this web, can people have access to report any problems like leakage or hot hose? They can, instead of calling, they can report there.
So there's the contact information for departments is listed. So that's one way that people could use the app to call. So if you click on the phone number, it'll automatically call and you can report in. There is a general, I think, reporting form in the app as well. But we do encourage people to call in because, you know, it allows people to interact with city staff and they have an opportunity to ask questions. So if we just receive a report of something and we need to kind of follow up on more details, it's always better to have somebody speaking to a person. So I would encourage people to use that contact option on the app.
Salon, and then Councillor
Yeah,
Brown.
just answer to one question was the issue of the siren. And the difficulty with sirens has always been a siren doesn't tell you anything. Doesn't tell you what kind of an emergency it is, doesn't tell you where to go, and in many ways it's not a very effective way to alert people. So this is a far superior way, as it tells you what the emergency is, what you should likely do, where you should muster. All of those pieces of information are actually part of the alert system, as opposed to simply a siren going off. I remember when I was a kid, we had sirens in town, and they went off to tell you that it was time to go back to school or that it was time for lunch. And the difficulty is there's not enough information attached to a siren. So so I think this is a far superior mechanism than suggesting we put up a bunch of sirens.
Can I just follow up on that for a sec? Is that okay? So I think just as a recent event that we had, maybe the fire chief can answer this one, but so a lot of people say, well, geez, I mean, we had an alert, we should sound the alarm right away. I mean, by the time anyone gets an alert, well, there's a reason why we don't just sound the alarm right off the bat, right? There's information that gets collected. Maybe you could explain a little bit of that process around why a siren is not necessarily the right action right off the bat. Particularly with Rupert's circumstance and things like that. I think there was some some confusion in the community on why we don't just sound an alarm and just do that right off the bat and then explain later to people. I thought maybe we could shed some light on that, because that was, I think, one of the main things that the community was kind of wondering, well, why aren't we sounding alarms? And to Councillor Randhawa's point is that, let's just say in an event that we are going to receive a big influx or a wave or whatever it is, that I believe there's a mechanism through sirens on the police vehicles, things like that, that there would be an opportunity for people to add a mass alert if necessary would happen. So I thought maybe that explanation would be warranted. Would that be something that you could explain to the community?
So the first part is the way we ran it last time was it takes time. So when we get an alert, we get called out. The people, there's so many of us that get called out immediately, and once we get together, we got to gather the information and figure out what's happening. And we rely on other partners outside our community to touch base and come up with the proper answers that we need. And that determines on how we're going to act and put people on notice. It doesn't mean we're not doing nothing. The last event we actually had fire trucks and police cars out in the area ready to go at a moment's notice. So we had them moving, we had our reception center set up, and everything ready to go if we had to make the call. It's not that we didn't do nothing, it's just no sense calling everybody out if we don't need to, no sense disturbing anybody. This event happened early in the morning, people were sleeping. If it's a non-event, we don't need to disturb everybody. This new system now will, if they choose to be disturbed, they will be disturbed. If they sign up, they'll get the calls and the notifications. Still, with the new system that we're going to be introducing, we're still going to have people going out and patrolling, fire trucks, the police department, setting up areas, and being mobile, going around town if this event happens, or an event does happen and we do push out notifications. This doesn't mean we're not going to do nothing. This is just a faster way of getting information out, along with the website. And again, this all takes time because we have to get our information from EMBC and other sources that come into us so we can respond.
So just to add to that, then I will get to. Sorry, just because to follow up on this train. So we're in a tsunami risk assessment program right now. That's correct?
Yeah. So correctly, we're doing a study right now It wasn't coincidental. It just happened to happen at the same time as the last event. But we are with a group now that is setting up to do a tsunami risk, and they're setting up different models and showing us different events that can happen in this area at different times and what the event may be. And we hope to have that wrapped up in just over a year. All that information should be brought out in public at that time.
So from my understanding from speaking with you guys and everything is that it's our unique geography is what makes us unique in terms of how we would respond to these risks, because of being in an inner harbor, that we're more at a surge risk, and that this is some of the reasons why we would go about handling an emergency in this way. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are very sheltered and protected, so we will worry about more of a high water, more than we would a wave effect. It'll be more of a flush, a water intake, and then a dump, a release of going back out again. We won't see an event like Japan had, where you can see the wave rolling in. We're too sheltered for that here, but we still will see some flux of water, and that's what this study will show us. It'll also show us some inner harbor stuff at the same time. If an event happened in the harbor, being a landslide or whatever, it'll also show some of those type of events we can prepare for. So we do have some time with the way we're sheltered and protected. We do have some time to make notice. Some cases we do have incidents on Haida Gwaii. Our time is much less, but if we get the event that happened closer to Japan, we've got a longer period of time to set up. So it gives us more time to weigh out options to get people out of here accordingly. We don't want to do getting people in masses evacuating the area if we don't need to. That just creates more problems. If you can shelter in home and stay because you're safe, that's what we wish.
Great. So I think what would be great is if we could, say, develop some sort of content that could be when you're signing up on the emergency site or in the app or in the brochure that's going to be sent out, some of this type of information. From what I've heard from the community was that this was the point where people were just very confused around what that looks like. So if there's like a video, you can just click play and 2 minutes explains to you the whole meal deal, whether when you're signing up for the alerts or whatever that looks like. Because I think as councillors and mayor here, we all heard from everyone, and there was and then we put out the information in text, but as we know, not all that stuff reaches everybody, and so maybe just finding creative ways to get this information out, just so that people know that we're not going. It's not, that we're not, like you said, not doing something. That there was a whole process in place, that we responded accordingly, and I just think sometimes social media can kind of take off and have its own life, and what you guys are doing today, all the explanations, I think is fantastic, and it's a great response. So we'll do Councillor Moreau and then Councillor Cunningham. Oh, City Manager wants to just follow up on that.
Just quickly, as we know, we have to take information from legitimate sources. So with all the greatest of respect to social media, they cannot necessarily be legitimate sources. And as we know from the alert in Hawaii, we can't implement a bunch of resources, bother a bunch of people until we're actually confirmed that we have the right information. So I know social media is far quicker than all these legitimate ways that have checks and balances that need to be addressed before we actually put out alerts. So there's no way we're going to beat social media with any announcement. We need to recognize that, but we would like people to recognize that it's in their best interest to wait for the official notification, which we will get out as quickly as we humanly can get it out, but that is the legitimate notification, not all the other stuff that'll go on likely before we can actually respond. So just so people know that, they may want to rely on social media, that makes sense if they want to do that, but we would like to ask them to wait for official legitimate notification that we have an emergency.
Which they'll get on their cell phone now.
So changing topics slightly, I'm wondering if you can just elaborate a little bit more. You referenced the reporting function of the app. I think it's specific to Public Works. I'm wondering if that functionality is specifically designed for emergencies, or if you're also viewing that as a potential engagement initiative with the public for, say, things like potholes, or they see some water on the street that shouldn't be there, something like that.
Yeah, that is a potential function. We're kind of going to take a look at the kind of responses we get and then evaluate, what potential uses we have for it. Currently it's a generalized reporting form there's available on the app, but again, I'm still kind of I tend to want to push people to call just because it does provide a greater amount of detailed information, because we can't really control exactly what people are saying in their little comment form. So, but yeah, we are kind of going to explore a little bit about what kind of options we have that way.
Well, follow up and then Councillor.
So is the functionality then to call the right person at Public Works, for example? Would you be able to find that through the app on who to call?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our after-hours service line as well as our Public Works customer service line. So yeah, if there's an after-hours emergency, you can call that line, or you can call during the day just the general Public Works line if there's any kind of emergency service that you need.
Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Niche.
Okay, you've pretty well covered everyone, but is there going to be any way that the app can be used to compile a list of people that are seniors or have mobility issues or something like that, so the first responders going out can actually target certain people or households? Because it might be the one issue that falls through the cracks. People that have mobility issues, or like again, this making maybe Dave or Veronica go to the senior center and do a presentation on this app might be getting out to that segment of our city. But there are people with wheelchair mobility issues and things like that, and this isn't even having the app. They could maybe poll people, or I'm not this tech guy like Marco and you guys, but by having the app, they can actually let you know that there's a mobility issue with such and such an address and things like that. So when the first responders go out, they can actually take care of those people.
That's definitely something that we'll make a note of. We don't currently have that built into the capacity of the app right now. We don't have it where you can list whether or not you have a mobility issue, but that's actually something interesting. Really so I think we'll make a note of that. We did plan to target the senior center as well as other, like the hospital and places, doctors' offices, places that we knew people who are older might go that might not necessarily be signing up online. So yeah, that's something that we've considered, but we didn't consider that specific mobility issue, and that might actually be a great idea. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just to add to that, not even so much mobility, but like some people need to have things plugged in to keep them alive, and if the power's out, that I just thought of that when he said that. But just good job. It sounds like you guys have got most of the bases covered, and obviously we'll probably be working to make it even better in the future. And yeah, I look forward to seeing it. Well, I don't really look forward to seeing it work, but I do want to see it work if something does happen.
Any further discussion?
I just want to also say great job. I think this will be really helpful. And one of the things is that there's a mock handout, or maybe it is the real handout in our package, and it's too bad it's not up on the screen, because one of the things it does show is where the evacuations are, and I am reminded of the time, not this time, which made the same thing occurred, but I wasn't in Rupert, but the time before when we had a large scare for a tsunami. People went up and all went up to Roosevelt. So of course you couldn't get at the hospital if you tried. So if somebody was having a heart attack, a bunch of people who lived on Crestview were up at sitting up at the hospital. It really is. People really need to be aware of this map, and I hope that when the messaging goes out, if there is something, you say, stay in your house unless you are in these places, because what happens is that people get panicky and they leave, and what happens is that first responders can't get to where they're supposed to be getting, so that we create an emergency situation when if we stayed at home there wouldn't be that emergency. And I think that's so important that people not run around like their hair's on fire if they're in an area which is not in tsunami danger, if that is the And that's why I really like this idea of this app. That it can give notifications out by area, and I think that I always worry about people in a panicking, like, you know, you call fire in a crowded theater. We all know we're not supposed to do that, right? So you say tsunami and everybody gets in their car and drives around town looking for the highest spot. Is that creating a problem, or is that solving a problem? To me, that's creating a problem. It's like yelling fire in a center. So I think that the city is handling it properly, very much so. I think that this app is an excellent device. I think you know, waiting until we actually know what the threat is before we move, that's getting the correct information is absolutely what we should be doing. I think that how we are responding is absolutely right on target. But I do think that we need to, in the case of tsunami warnings, that make people understand, you know, if you're up in 6th Avenue East where I am, you don't need to be running up to the top of Ambrose and 6th, because that's the highest point in my neighborhood. I'm okay, right? I'm okay. There's going to be no wave that's going to reach me. And so I think that it's better for me to stay home, sound asleep, and ignore the whole thing than, I mean, I don't get caught up in the excitement and everything, you know, I don't get to go down to the waterfront and see the surge. And I mean, there are three types of people. You stay at home and sleep through it, which is what I prefer to do. You go down to the waterfront and to see how high the tide actually gets, or you go up to the hospital and plug the access to the hospital. I think we need to make sure that people know what they absolutely should do in those cases. And I think this app is part of it. I think that this map is part of it, but I think that it's also something that we should talk about in the newspaper and on the media and in social media, so that people don't get panicked and spooked because somebody puts on social media, oh my God, there's a huge hurricane of water heading for Prince Rupert and we're all going to be flooded and left, unless, where's that damn gondola when you need it, right? So, you know, we should really try to get out the idea, because this seems to be, you know, for our neighborhood, it's not fires, it's not floods. Every once in a while we have an electrical shortage, which is, yeah, if somebody needs electricity, that's an emergency for them. But for the most of us, it's not an emergency, like a real emergency that has to be dealt with right away. Something like a gas leak would be, but this could be specifically targeted for that. So I think this, you guys that have been looking after this, staff who've been looking after this, done an excellent job. But I just think it's up to the rest of the city, including the media, to make sure that people don't engage in panicky activities when there is an emergency. But the main thing is they put their, you know, look at their phone, go to their computer right away, and stand by until they know what they should be doing. Stand by tight. My lecture for the day, but I really get concerned when people start panicking and running around wondering where the highest part of town is, when really, you know, maybe we're going to get a 6-inch increase of tide in our harbor for that day. You know, it just seems to be an overreaction, a panicky overreaction. But I want to thank you very much. I think this is excellent.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and it's just council to make a motion to receive this report for information. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Great job. You got all that? Okay, next up, a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2018 budget direction.
Thank you. Staff prepared a draft budget for council and the public to review at the end of February. In that budget, it was noted there was no need to increase the mill rate given new taxation had come online, absorbing any increase necessary. That presentation, along with all subsequent messaging, indicated the draft could change once the final BC assessment values came in. Staff are in receipt of those amended values, and the resultant decrease in assessed values was not significant enough to warrant any change to the mill rate. The budget remains balanced, with the mill rates proposed on February 26th. Staff requires direction to proceed preparing the necessary budget documents using the information attached in the report. Thank you.
Great. So recommendation that council directs staff to proceed with the 2018 5-year financial plan bylaw and related 2018 property tax bylaw using the balanced budget data presented. Moved by Councillor Moreau, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. Discussion?
I just want to say again how impressed I am the hard work of staff to deliver a balanced budget given all of the financial constraints that I think are unique to Prince Rupert as well as some of our cost pressures. It's an impressive feat, and I really commend you guys for all the hard work you've done on this.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next up, we have a letter from the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada, dated March 2018. So the recommendation is that Council proclaim May 2018 as MS Awareness Month in the City of Prince Rupert. Moved by Councillor Renhawa, seconded by Councillor Moreau. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. It's a great initiative. Mr. Mandrick, we have 2 resolutions from closed meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From March 26th, Council passed 2 resolutions in the closed meeting. One pertaining to the appointment to the board for the Prince Rupert Port Authority. It was moved by Councillor Moreau and seconded by Councillor Cunningham that Council appoint Mr. John Farrell to the Prince Rupert Port Authority Board of Directors for a second 3-year term, and that was carried by all. The second resolution was in regards to a board appointment for the Performing Arts Centre. The resolution reads, moved by the Mayor and seconded by Councillor Moreau that Council, upon review of the applications for the Performing Arts Centre Society's Board, appoint Ms. Alison O'Toole for a 2-year term, and that was carried by all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the City of Prince Rupert Development Procedure Bylaw number 3425, 2018. We had a robust discussion, so the recommendation is that Council, having approved the amendments made at the regular meeting of Council on March 26, 2018 to the Prince Rupert Development and Procedure Bylaw number 3425, 2018, hereby gives final consideration and adopts the City of Prince Rupert Development Procedure Bylaw number 3425, 2018. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Neese. Discussion? Okay, this is great. All those in favor? Any opposed? Wonderful. It's great to update that. That's going to be a great step forward for our development process in Prince Rupert. Okay, a couple little reports. We'll start with Ms. Bombin.
Okay, so at the February 13th council meeting, I was appointed Chief Elections Officer in light of the terrible news received with respect to Councillor Kinney. Some people, including members of council, may be wondering what the city's responsibility is going forward. Given my appointed capacity, I am compelled to provide information with regards to legislative obligations. The Local Government Act indicates that if a vacancy occurs after June 1st in a general election year, a local government may decide to not hold a by-election prior to the general election. If the vacancy occurs before that, a council may decide that a by-election is not to be held if all of the following circumstances apply. The vacancy occurs after January 1st in the year of the general local election. The vacancy is not in an office elected on the basis of a neighborhood constituency, and the number of remaining council members is at least 1 greater than the quorum for the council. All 3 criteria are satisfied. Therefore, it is my respectful recommendation that when council feels ready, a resolution can be passed to leave the position as is until the general election this October. There is no requirement for a decision to be rendered at this time. This verbal report is intended only for information purposes.
Well, if the council wishes right now, I'd be happy to move that motion forward. Seconded by Councillor Neese. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, a couple things for myself. First, I just want to do a big thank you to everybody about the McKay Street Park this weekend. Pretty much most of council was here helping out this weekend with the park as well. It was a 13-hour day, lifting heavy logs and laying concrete, and it was a really special day for the community. So I'll just thank everybody who came, and participated in that. It was great to see council out there and all the community and the kids there, and I've said enough on live videos on Facebook, so I just wanted to mention that I think this is a great thing for the community. So, and to Veronica Stewart as well, who helped to organize a lot of that process there. So that, and then also just want to do a tribute here to the anniversary of Vimy Ridge today. My grandfather fought in World War II, and so I think it's 101 years now, I believe, is Vimy Ridge now. Before that war, of course, but just want to make sure that we pay our respects to those who have served before us, and just make sure that we pay those respects. So just wanted to put that out there. And if there's any other reports from council? Councillor Thorkelson?
I just wanted to express my condolences to Nelson's family. I haven't had a chance to do it publicly, and I don't know if anybody else on council's had a chance to do that. But I've served with Nelson since 2005, and he was on council for at least one term before I was, and it's always been a pleasure. He's always, you know, he in the last number of years has fought through really terrible health issues, and has missed council meetings seldom. You know, he's come here even when he hasn't felt well. He certainly has been a conduit for seniors. I don't think we've ever had a discussion where he hasn't reminded us of impacts of policies, possible impacts on seniors, and I think that that Nelson was voted, I think, for at least twice in elections as he topped the polls. So he was obviously somebody who the residents of the city of Prince Rupert also trusted as representing their interests on council. So it's been a real pleasure to serve with Nelson. He's a pretty funny guy. People haven't had a chance to know him personally. He had a pretty wicked sense of humor, Nelson. And I think that we'll all miss his stabilizing, and Nelson didn't speak up often, but when he spoke up, he was thoughtful, and Nelson also tried to remind us, I think, when maybe we were getting entrenched in our positions, that we should be thinking what was best for the people of the city of Prince Rupert, not necessarily what our political inclinations might want us to think, but really to think about what was best for the people of Prince Rupert. And so I am going to miss Nelson very much, sitting on council, listening to his advice, and talking to him off camera, and listening to some of his delicious jokes. So anyway, I for one am really going to miss Nelson, and I want to pay a tribute at this. I see we've got some lovely bouquet of flowers that is aptly put at his spot, and you know, it wasn't talked about in the paper, but I think Nelson, everybody knew that Nelson was gay, and he was gay at a time, and I want to talk about this. This is important in our community, to talk about the bravery of somebody who declared, maybe not publicly, but certainly was not ashamed of being gay. And I think that Nelson, his election, even in a time when people, and his popularity in a time when people didn't want to speak of homosexuality, and you know, look at you know, our young mayor and young Councillor Moreau. But there was a time, not very long ago, when people didn't discuss that, or if they discussed it, like they said, inside the closet or behind closed doors. And Nelson was, I think, in our community, somebody that I have nothing but respect for, because he wasn't afraid and he didn't care what people said or who knew. And I think that he gave us a shining example of what bravery was in the face of what many people must have been doing, is talking behind his back, and he didn't care. He had a business, he had many businesses downtown, and Nelson was somebody who I always respected, and think that you know, really in our community having a tribute to somebody who was of that generation. And out in the open and not in the closet is something really to say for somebody's character. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Joy. Councillor Randhawa.
Yeah, same, like lots of people still inquiring like when Nelson's memorial service will be. So is anybody know yet?
I believe the family has decided they're not going to make any plans for that yet. And if they do, I believe they'll notify somebody and that will get out. But I believe they've decided just to wait for a little while. Councillor Cunningham.
It was Nelson's wish that there was no service, but there's been talk of something to happen in the future. I guess time will tell. One of the things that Nelson was very passionate about in the end, and he wanted to see it go forward, and I think this council and a few other people want to see it go forward too, as a COPD drop-in clinic, and he had indicated to me that it was there was a life after COPD, and he wanted people to know about it, and he was quite vocal about it. The last 2-3 meetings him and I were at with the health board and things like that, and it's something I'd like to pursue. I've talked to a couple of people about it, and they want to jump in and do it too. So if you know, I can't speak for all the council and staff, but I think all council and staff would definitely support it and work in whichever way we can to do it. So it's something in the next couple of weeks I think I'm going to be bringing forth once I get some homework done on it and find out exactly what it's going to take and that. There was talk of a dinner dance and a little skit and things like that. So I'm going to check into how far he'd actually gone with this, and if he hasn't got the ball rolling yet, I'd really like to give it a good kick and get it rolling, and I think we'd all like to join in and do that, and I think it would be a very, very good tribute to Nelson to have a COPD clinic, and maybe even named after him or something like that in his memory, because it's something that he suffered with, and he worked his way through it. And you know, I did road trips with him with his Darth Vader case and breathing in the car and that, but it's something that he really worked through, and you know, and like Joy says, he wore who he was like a badge of honor, and there was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. But the COPD clinic is something I would really like to look into and see if we can get it going in some way or another.
Thank you. Any further reports? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Means adjourned.